Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Devar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem. This is Sheviis, chapter 8, Halacha 4. This is part 2 of the Shir. And we were covering these obscure halachot, and now, today, we're going to get into more detail about the fine points about hiring this kind of labor, and also making this sort of business arrangement like the Mishnah talks about with the bread. So the Gemara before was talking about when someone goes and he tells the worker, and he says, as the Mishnah is saying, have this isar and pick vegetables for me. And over there, his earnings are not going to get Sheviis sanctity. And the idea is that he's really contracting just for the time. But over here, where he says, pick vegetables for me for this isar, his earnings have Sheviis sanctity. And this is going to be this obscure law. Now, the Gemara is going to talk about an Amarah who's going to come and give a clear explanation of this law. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is going to say that the Mishnah's lenient ruling regarding have this isar and pick vegetables for me is going to refer to a case where the patron shows the worker the specific patch of vegetables to go and pick. And in this case, says the Gemara, the earnings have no Sheviis sanctity because the patron is merely paying him a wage for the labor of his feet. Now, again, this is going to be coming up again and again in this. This is going to be a case where, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, this case applies when you go and you point at a field that already has these vegetables there, and you're saying, go and pick this for me. And this is what the lenient ruling in this Mishnah is coming to teach. In other words, it's really talking about a case where he's actually showing the plot of earth. It has the vegetables there. And in this case, the earnings are not going to have Sheviis sanctity because it's clear that he's just showing him this patch of vegetables to clear it. He's not saying, go pick me an isser's worth of vegetables from this patch. He's saying, here's a patch, go pick it. And in this case, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, it's very clear that it's not going to be a sort of exchange where you're getting the vegetables for money. He's really just paying for the labor. That's the idea. But Rabbi Yochanan in this Gemara is not going to agree with it. And he's going to say that even if the patron does not show the worker a specific patch of vegetables from which to pick, it is the same as if he had shown it to him. Now, Rabbi Yochanan, according to the Mara Fulda, is saying like this. He's saying that since the produce is freely available during Sheviis, keep in mind, it's hefker, it's available to everybody. Rabbi Yochanan's point is it's not necessary for the patron, the person who's going to be paying this wage, to actually show the worker the vegetables to pick. Really, the idea is that telling him to go and pick it, it's going to be the same as showing him the vegetables. And in this case, the patron is viewed as paying the worker the wage for the labor of the feet. And it's not going to be as buying the vegetables from him. Now, in both cases, they're both worried about the same thing, okay? There's not a disagreement about that. The case over here is going to be whether you have to show him a specific field or not show him a specific field. But Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, they both agree on the same thing. They both agree that in this phraseology where you're saying, have this isar and pick the vegetables for me, this is not going to be something that's going to cause this money to become, subject to Sheviis sanctity. Because again, you're just paying for his labor. You're not paying a contract where he's giving you the vegetables for this isar. In other words, once it becomes a contract where you're exchanging the vegetables for this coin, then you're going to have the issue. That's not what the disagreement is. The disagreement over here is going to be, do you have to show him the field of vegetables or not? And Rabbi Yochanan is basically going to be saying, where it says, have this isser and pick the vegetables for me, is going to apply where he shows the worker, is going to be whether he's going to show the vegetables or not. According to Rabbi Yochanan, even if he doesn't show him the vegetables, he's saying, here's money, and go out to the field wherever you find it and go spend the day picking vegetables for me. In Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish's case, he's saying, no, here's the patch of field, here it is, go and pick it. So there's a bit of subtlety there. So in Rabbi Yochanan's version, it's just paying the labor, and it doesn't matter if he shows him the produce or not. Now, the Gemara is going to challenge Rish Lakish from a Baraisa. Actually, it's going to be a Baraisa that looks like it challenges Rish Lakish's opinion that you actually have to show him the field. And Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is actually going to have a really good reply, but let's see what this Baraisa says. So, this Baraisa says the Gemara contradicts Rish Lakish. And it was taught in a Baraisa, if someone hires a worker to bring wine for a sick person, or to bring an apple for a sick person, for a specific wage, the law is that if the worker brought the wine or the apple, the patron is obligated to pay him the wage. But if the worker did not bring the wine or the apple, then even if he tried to go and get it, he tried to go and procure it, the patron is not obligated to pay him for the wage. So the idea is that, according to Rosh Cirilio, even if the sick person died or became healthy, and there's no longer a need for the wine or the apple, and over here, although the worker is expending the time in order to go and try to find the wine, he is not entitled to the wage, since he was hired to bring unspecified wine or an unspecified apple. And the Mara Fulda says about this that the patron is deemed to have contracted with him to find the wine and deliver it, and therefore he does not get paid unless he actually delivers the product. Over here, the patron is not obligated to pay him a wage because he didn't go find the apple or the wine. The Gemara is going to continue. It's going to say, however, if he said to the worker, bring wine for the sick person from such and such a place, or bring an apple for the sick person from such and such a place, and the worker went to that place and he got the wine or the apple, the Gemara says, then whether he succeeded in getting it and he brought it to the sick person, or he did not succeed in getting it and did not bring it to him, the patron is obligated to pay him the wage. Because in this case, the terms of employment are that the patron pays him for a wage for the labor of his feet. And that's really what we're trying to get at. And the Mara Fulda is going to say about this that since the worker in this second case directed the worker to go to a specific place for that wine or the apple, he effectively hired him for a task, and that task is going to be to travel there, get it, and bring it back. Now, as a mere laborer, says Rosh Cirilio, he's entitled to his wage whether he meets with success or not, because he engaged him in the activity to go and get it. Now, this Gemara is really going to be talking about Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, because Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is saying, wait a second, I'm showing you the field here, and only in the case where I'm actually showing you the vegetables is that going to be the case. And over here, what this Baraisa is showing is that, let's say you say, okay, go over there to the field and go get the vegetables. Whether he got it or not, you still owe him the wage. That's what this Gemara is trying to show. And really, in this last case, the patron does not actually show the specific wine or the specific apple. He just sent him to a location where the product would likely be found, and nevertheless, the worker is paid for the labor of his feet. Now, let's talk about a modern example. Let's say you're a sick person, and you go and you hire somebody to go to the store to go buy a certain medication. And the idea is that it's likely that this pharmacy is going to have this medication. So you say, okay, I'm going to pay you for your hour of time. Go to this pharmacy and go get XYZ medicine. So the guy goes and he does it. But that pharmacy doesn't have XYZ medicine. Now, in all likelihood, it should. Pharmacy should carry the medicine, but perhaps it doesn't have that medicine. Maybe it's sold out, or maybe it's too obscure. So he comes back and he says, give me the wage. I went, I did it. It's not my fault they didn't have it. According to Torah law, he's entitled to the wage because the contract is for him to go to the store and go get it. Now, if he didn't get it, that's not his problem because he wasn't shown a specific product. He was basically being paid for his time to go show up to that likely place to try to go find it. Now, the Gemara is going to ask a question. It says, what does Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish do with this brisa? Because it looks like it really contradicts his point. And the Gemara answers, and it says that he interprets the brisa's later case as speaking of a case where the patron actually showed the worker the product that he was to bring, and he did not merely send the worker to a general location, but he specified the precise house in which the wine or the apple was actually stored. So, according to this case, says the Ma'ara Fulda, the worker is surely paid his labor, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, because according to this mission, it's to go out, get a specific wine or specific apple at a specific house. And they all agree that he's entitled to the wage, even if the mission fails. So in Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish's answer about this brisa in order to support his case, he's saying no. What this brisa is saying is he's saying, look, I'm sending you to go get specific wine or specific apple at a specific house. Now, for some reason, if the guy wasn't there or the house was locked and nobody answered the door and you couldn't get that specific wine at that specific house and you come back, you're still paid for your wage. And that's what it's talking about. What Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is saying is he's saying we're not talking about a general place that might have wine. We're talking about a specific place. And so too over here, we're talking about a specific field that we know has vegetables. And so in that case, he is going to be paid for his labor. In other words, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is saying that there's no potentiality that you're going to go find it. I'm actually showing you the field where it has the vegetables in it, and I'm paying you the time to go and pick these vegetables. So the Gemara is going to answer about this, and it's going to say that, his Gemara is going to answer. He's going to interpret the brisa's later case as speaking of a case where the patron actually showed the worker the produce that he was to bring, and he did not merely send him to a general location, but specified the precise place where it's going to be stored, just like the field. Now, Rabbi Yochanan is going to challenge that, and the brisa contradicts Rabbi Yochanan. There's another brisa now. So this other brisa now is going to contradict Rabbi Yochanan's point, and let's see how Rabbi Yochanan answers it, okay? So it was taught in this brisa that looks like it contradicts Rabbi Yochanan's point, and the Gemara says, a person who is wealthy and ineligible to collect leket or peah should not say to his fellow who is poor and eligible to collect it, have this dinar and bring me leket today, or have this dinar and bring me peah today. Now, we learned this when we covered Maseket Peah. Only a poor person is allowed to collect leket and peah. Leket and peah is going to be either the corner of the field, or when you're gathering the sheaves, it's going to be the ears of grain that fall onto the ground. That is a gift for the poor, and rich people are not entitled to get it. Now, what this Gemara is effectively saying is he's saying, look, the rich person can't go make a labor contract with the poor person. Yes, we know that the poor person's the only one allowed to collect it, but now when the rich person is making a labor contract to go and collect it, he's effectively turning the poor person into the rich person's agent. And when the rich person turns the poor person into the agent, then it's really not the poor person collecting it anymore. It's really just the rich person collecting it through a poor agent. So the Gemara says, rather, if he desires his leket or peah, he should say to him, have this dinar for the leket that you will bring to me, or the payah that you will bring to me today. Now, what is this? This is switching around the case that the Mishnah talks about. And we know that a rich person is allowed to buy leket or payah off of a poor person, and a poor person is allowed to sell it. And what this case is saying, look, I'm not making a labor contract with you. I'm doing what this is saying about the Sheviis produce. I'm saying that if you go and you are contracting for the produce itself, if you're contracting for the produce itself, that's where it's going to be okay. In other words, if you're saying, come, go do the work for me, and go do the work, and, I'll pay you an isser for an isser's worth of payah, or an isser's worth of leket. And the guy goes and he finds it. Now, he doesn't have to go and sell it. He can go keep it, right? But he just knows that it's an offer that if I go and if I give it back to this rich person, that he's going to give me an isser for this leket or this payah, and it's effectively a sale. And that's what this Mishnah was talking about as well. In the phraseology of this Mishnah, you're really creating a contract in this second case where it's saying, pick me an isser's worth of vegetables and I will give you an isser. And that's not really a labor contract. That's really saying, go get vegetables and here's an isser and give me an isser's worth of vegetables and I will give you the coin. And in fact, that's basically going to be a contract where you're exchanging the money for the coin, the money for the vegetable. And that's what's going to, you can see the difference. So the case over here is also going to be the same structure. It's going to be where I'm not paying you for the labor. I'm just saying that if you go and you pick leket or payah, that you can bring it to me and I'll give you a coin worth what this leket is. And the guy may choose to do it, he may not. Now, the Gemara is going to continue and it's going to say, so too do you find the same law applicable with regards to a Yisrael who gives a dinar to a Levi for the Meiser Rishon that he collects. Now, the reason it is permitted for the rich person to say, have this dinar for the leket that you will bring me today, is that he did not show the poor person a specific field with which to collect the leket. And therefore, the poor person is not collecting directly for the rich person. And the idea is that he's collecting it just for himself, and then he's selling it to the rich person. But the case would be different. If the rich person goes and he shows him the field to go and collect from, and the poor person goes out and he collects the leket on the rich person's behalf like an employee, then that's not allowed. So over here, that's also going to be kind of similar to what it looks like Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is actually arguing. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is actually saying, look, I'm showing you this actual field. Here's the field. And I'm paying you for the time to go clear the field. And in this case over here, he's saying, look, here's the field over here, and look at all the leket there. Now go pick up the leket and give me an isser's worth of this leket. Now it's like I'm paying him as an employee. And so the question is, what is Rabbi Yochanan going to do with this brisa? Because it really looks like it's supporting Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish's point. And the Gemara says, but you, Rabbi Yochanan, say that even when one does not show his worker which produce to collect, it is the same as if he had shown it to him, and the worker is deemed to be collecting it on his behalf. And accordingly, says this Gemara, it should have been prohibited even for the rich person to say, have this dinar for the leket you will bring me today. So what does Rabbi Yochanan do with this brisa? So over here, we know that, with Meiser Rishon, it has to be given to a Levi. And you can't take it on a Yisrael's behalf. But you can sell it to Yisrael after the Levi acquires it. Now, a Yisrael may not go and tell a Levi, have this dinar and bring me Meiser Rishon today. In which case, he's basically paying the Levi for his labor. But he can say, have this dinar for the Meiser Rishon that you will bring me today. And in that case, he's really purchasing the Meiser Rishon from him. Now, the question is, what happens when you're showing him the area, right? So that's really what this is all about. I'm actually showing you this area that has all this Meiser Rishon, and now there's going to be this contract. So here's how Rabbi Yochanan is going to handle it. Now, I want to point out some of the commentary by the Mara Fulda on it and about this answer. And Mara Fulda is going to say about the answer coming up that Rabbi Yochanan is going to concede that by the letter of the law, when a worker is not shown the specific produce to collect, he is deemed to be collecting it on his own behalf, for it is not the same as if he's shown it to, they show it to him. And only with regards to Sheviis did Rabbi Yochanan state it that it is the same as if he'd been shown to him. And why would that be? And the Gemara says, because Rabbi Yochanan maintains that the rabbis were lenient with regards to Sheviis law, which is nowadays enforced only by the Rabbanan. So in the cases of the leket and in the cases of Meiser Rishon, those are going to be things that are applicable by biblical law. Now today, after the first temple and that exile, that is no longer applicable by biblical law. And the idea is that the laws of Sheviis are only biblically enforced when the laws of Yovel are also in force. And Yovel is only observed when the majority of the Jewish people in the world are settled in the land. And also, by the way, each tribe has its proper place. So these conditions are not satisfied today, and because of that, Sheviis is only going to be d'Rabbanan. So effectively, what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, he's saying that since the laws of Sheviis apply only rabbinically, then the rabbis were lenient with regard to the laws and the wages paid to someone who picks Sheviis produce. And then they're freed of the wage from acquiring Sheviis sanctity, even if it's not shown the specific product to pick. So in this context, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that even if he's not shown the produce, it's the same as if he's shown the produce. And basically, the difference between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish is he's saying that, look, in all of these cases, you're talking about something as d'Rabbanan anyway. So very nice that you're going and you're talking about picking leket and you're talking about Meiser Rishon, which are going to be d'oraita things. But, leket and peah, even today, by the way, is going to be a biblical obligation. And so, over here, we're talking about something today that is going to be in, treated as d'Rabbanan instead of d'oraita. So, that's part of, the subtlety here. Now, we're going to get into another part of the Mishnah which continues this, okay? So the Mishnah stated, if one took from a baker a loaf or bread worth a pudyon and says to him, when I pick vegetables of the field, I will bring you some, it is permissible for him to bring the baker Sheviis vegetables. So the question is, at what point does this turn into a debt where you're actually paying a debt? Over there, the question is, am I paying a wage and for the labor? And over here, am I phrasing it in a way where it turns into a debt and the structure becomes a debt? So the Gemara is going to talk about an opposing opinion, and it was taught in a Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nehemiah prohibit it, and this is going to be in this phraseology because effectively it's going to be like he's repaying a debt with Sheviis produce. When he phrases it like this, where the person brings a baker for vegetables in the field, it's like he's created a debt, and it's not really like he's doing a favor. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nehemiah are saying that this arrangement actually creates a debt and is repaying a debt, and you're not allowed to do that with Sheviis produce. So the Gemara is going to look at this dispute, and the Gemara is going to refine this, and it's going to say, what case are we dealing with? In other words, if the customer is obligated to give the baker vegetables, then surely he is repaying a debt and nobody can permit this transaction. And if he is not obligated to give him the vegetables, then he is merely presenting a gift and nobody would forbid it. So what is this dispute about? So over here, this is going to be parallel to the text in Meiser Sheni 3:1, where the Mishnah over there is saying, if it is a case where the baker told the customer, I will give you a loaf of bread and you give me vegetables of the field in return, all agree it is forbidden. And Rabbi Kanievsky in his Beur shiurim says, because the baker stipulated that he be compensated with the vegetables, he clearly imposed the value of the bread as a debt on the customer. And everyone agrees that debts cannot be repaid with Sheviis produce. But the Mara Fulda points out something else. He says, if it's a case where the baker does not stipulate, but the customer says, give me a loaf and I will give you vegetables in the field in the future, everyone agrees it is permitted. Why is that? Because the customer did not make a commitment to pay. He just requested the loaf as a gift, and he's offering to return it with a gift of vegetables when he can. And in that way, you have two exchanges of gifts, and two exchanges of gifts, everybody agrees, is going to be permitted. And why? Because there's no debt at all. So the Gemara is going to answer. It's going to say, if it is a case where the customer said to the baker, give me a loaf of bread and I will certainly give you vegetables of the field. This, by the way, can be interpreted two ways. The first way is it could mean, I undertake to bring you vegetables, which is a commitment to pay. Or it could mean, I am confident that I will find vegetables in the field to bring to you. And that, by the way, is going to be a non-committal offer as a gift. But if this is interpreted as a way where it's a commitment, then this transaction, the way this is phrased, is prohibited, because it means, as one of two interpretations, that this bread the customer is going to take on as a debt, and you can't pay a debt with Sheviis vegetables. But on the other hand, if it's just a confident declaration of intent, then the transaction is allowed, because the baker is giving the bread as a gift and he's expecting that the person will reciprocate with a gift of Sheviis vegetables. So there's two ways to read it, and this is going to continue. So Rabbi Yudah and Rabbi Nehemiah prohibit the transaction on these terms because they maintain that the vegetables of the field are not commonly available during Sheviis. So one cannot expect with certainty to find them in the field. And this is the expression where it says, I will certainly give you vegetables. And that cannot be taken to mean I am confident that I will be able to reciprocate for the bread by picking free vegetables from the field for you. Rather, it must be understood to mean I undertake to find vegetables which will be to compensate you for the bread. And this, by the way, is going to be a genuine commitment, and that basically incurs a debt on the customer. And basically, you can't repay Sheviis produce for a debt. But what this also is talking about, where this is actually not representative as two people exchanging gifts anymore. This is now like, hey, I've purchased this from you for debt. Now, the sages, says this Gemara, is actually going to allow this transaction on these terms. Again, keep in mind, there's two ways to interpret how we read this. So the Gemara is going to say, because they maintain that vegetables of the field are commonly available during Sheviis. So what does that mean? According to the Mara Fulda, it's saying I certainly will give you vegetables is understood to mean I am confident that I will find vegetables in which to reciprocate your gift. And since the customer has made no commitment to pay, he's receiving the bread as a gift. And when he gives the baker the vegetables, he is basically granting him a gift of Sheviis produce, and that is going to be allowed. So, in other words, the idea is that they're available enough for us to be able to interpret the customer's statement as a declaration of his confidence in the ability to find free vegetables for the baker. And that is why, according to the Tanna Kama, this sort of arrangement and statement is going to be allowed. Now, Halacha 5 is going to be interesting. It's going to get into the guidelines of how to use money that has Sheviis sanctity. Anyway, really appreciate your patience. And today I'm watching the baby. And it's very important to have children. Have a great day.